Yo, BQuanchi here, at it again, doing something a little bit different on the channel today. I did a very few of these, kind of when I find an article that's like interesting or more like just listicle stuff. Like I did one about like boomer food and pet peeves, like really old ones. Some of them like didn't really get much attention, but I thought I'll just try it again, just kind of mix things up because this is kind of more of a react, and as you can tell, it's popular facts that aren't really true that are actually myths. So what I'm going to do is put a link to the article below. It's one of those annoying pages where you see a bunch of ads. So I'm like citing my sources in a sense. I did like save some of the images and made a slideshow, a more interesting one, and kind of want to go through them, react, commentate on them. But yeah, just and you might learn something new as well. But before I get into it, I always like to say the best way to support me and the channel is to like, comment, and subscribe. YouTube is a big main one. Follow on Twitter to catch updates and the fun tweets. In Twitch, where I play video games on stream, and those are uploaded back to YouTube channel as VODs and all that. Also, I decided to mix it up and actually have my webcam on, although it's a really cheap one on my laptop. So maybe the channel gets bigger, I can get better equipment and stuff like that. So I thought it might be a little bit interesting to show my face. I don't do that too often, but it's a cheap webcam on my laptop, so that's the quality. But I thought I would just make this a little bit more interesting of a video. So let's get to the first fact. In the myth, in winter animals get cold and therefore they hibernate. And the truth is, they hibernate because of the scarce source of food in the winter. I feel like this wasn't too bad of a misconception because you always see like animals eat a lot, and if you go, oh, it's because they want to sleep for like 3 months or whatever. And that makes sense. Like it's winter and it's cold and snowing. Especially like animals like bears who depend on like other wildlife, and those wildlife depends on like nature and fruits and berries or whatever. So that makes sense, but it's not that they're cold. It's just that there's not going to be much food, so they just binge eat, sleep. That seems like life to me. That's like literally me as a bear with a box of pizza for a pillow. So I didn't think that was too bad of a misconception. So let's go to the next one. Another bear fact. And the myth is polar bear's fur is white. And the truth is it's actually transparent. I think that has to do with like insulation. The article didn't have it pulled up, but I think it goes into facts a little bit more. But I think it's more just I don't know if it's like a evolution thing or whatever, so they can deal with the winter. Because usually polar bears are in the polar ice caps where it's cold. So I think it kind of helps insulate them more or whatever. But it's not white fur; it's actually transparent fur, which is kind of interesting. I don't think everyone knows that fact. Next myth: Cleopatra was from Egypt. And reality is that she's actually has Greek ancestry. Not that I cared about this too much. I just thought it was kind of an interesting fact on the list. I was going back. Clone High is coming back for a new season. I know like Cleopatra, one of the main characters, everything's like, oh, she's this Egyptian princess, but she wasn't actually from Egypt, I don't think, or she at least had some Greek ancestry. I feel kind of bad because I'm kind of like butchering some of these facts, just kind of like glancing over them, give like cliff notes and all that. But I thought this one a little bit interesting. Myth: piranhas can devour a human body in a matter of seconds. And the truth is that piranhas are really timid and cautious fish. No case of human death from piranha attacks have ever been recorded. So this is really interesting as well because you always see like in movies or cartoons, like they put a little piece of meat, or then they put somebody in like a tank of piranhas, like the piranhas will go crazy and rip them apart. I think didn't one of the recent Jumanji movies do that as well. I didn't watch it, but it's kind of interesting that piranhas won't actually act like that. I'm not sure if even like a big school of them, but it seems like not as vicious as people let on. Next myth is that charging your smartphone overnight is bad. And the fact is, smartphones stop charging once it reaches a certain point. And I didn't know this was really a myth. I always left my phone charging overnight. That's good to know the technology, like it doesn't like mess it up if it's like still plugged in. I know people like say like don't charge your phone unless the battery's drained or stuff like that. I did want to mention something kind of like interesting, kind of with my electronics, because I had this issue with my laptop. that the battery swole up, like it actually swole up, and I kind of like read like, oh, um, if you leave it plugged in, it messes with it somehow. So I had this like big swollen, like almost like a bulge on my laptop. So if you have like a computer like that, maybe it's the I'm not sure if it's the same thing with phones, but maybe someone need to research. But basically, with my laptop, I had to remove the battery, and I never replaced it. So I need to get a new computer. Literally, my laptop I can't use it unless it's plugged in. Um, I think this guy could be really bad. Can like maybe explode a bit, but it was like really swollen. Like I thought my laptop would just get warped somehow over time. But with laptops, like plug them and and put them to sleep mode instead of just closing it. So I just had a weird thing. And I think most laptops are like lithium batteries, and my laptop is more of a gaming one, so maybe it has more power to it. So versus my older laptops where it's just like a small battery in the back of it. So crazy, but I guess it just depends on electronic. But this fact made me think of that issue with my laptop. Myth: the pin of a grenade can be dramatically pulled out with one's teeth. And the truth is that the persons would have no teeth afterwards, and the grenade would still have a pin in it. And I was reading this in an article from one remember, is that the pins are very hard to take out, so you can't just easily pull it out. I think one of the main things with that, so you don't have like accidental detonations or anything like that, that the pin doesn't actually come out, like if it's in storage or if you're carrying it around. So the pin seems like it takes a lot of effort to pull out, so you can't just do it with your teeth. Because like in the image, like it's makes reference to the Rambo movie, but it says like that it's not really something that could happen. I know it's really possible someone really tried, but you might have to like break all your teeth doing so. And it's one of those things like just pull out with your fingers and all that. But the main thing is that like a pin from a grenade is not that easily to pull out. At least see in like in movies and TV shows and stuff like that, kind of play it up. But the prop's not real. But I thought that was an interesting fact. Next myth: sweats can remove toxins from your body. And the fact is, sweat glands cool down your body. So I think this is kind of simple, but I think people like associate like if you ate a lot of bad food or had one of those rough nights and drank a lot and they like work out and sweat all the toxins, and that's I guess not really a thing. That's why it's just pretty much the function is to cool down your body and like it's your organs like the liver and kidneys and stuff like that that filters and processes those toxins. So working out, running on a treadmill, whatever is not going to remove toxins in a sense. I'm not sure if it's going to help stimulate stuff. I don't know about that. I'm like just some idiot on the internet. But just the act of sweating, like maybe going into like a sauna and sweating, I'm not sure if it does anything with your metabolism or organs and stuff like that, but just the act of sweating, it's not actually sweating out toxins from your body. The next myth is that silencers make every gun completely quiet. And the truth is, a silencer only dampens the noise, but the gunshot is still audible. This one I thought, I'm not sure if it's like that much of a recoil from the picture, from the artist who ever did this, but I see that in movies, like when you ever hear a silencer like in a video game, you still hear the bullet, like it's a lot quieter, but they never like, you don't see like anyone using a silencer in a movie or a game and it makes no sound when the gunshots fire. I guess that makes sense too, but I guess maybe just because of the impact of a bullet and speed of when it gets like launched or triggered out of a gun, like there's no way to really silence a gunshot. And there's always like the sound of it hitting another object too, which is always gonna make noise, I guess. I think some things like people use like pillows and stuff like that in the movies, just in the movies or in Minecraft, whatever. But another fact on this list. Next myth is king cobra is the most venomous animal in the world. And the fact is, a box jellyfish is the most venomous animal in the world. I'm not quite sure because I know there's like the difference between being venomous and being poisonous or something like that. And I had like other snakes like the black mamba and stuff like that. I'm sure that how many different types of jellyfish. It kind of creeps me out thinking like if this jellyfish is going to be really poisonous. I'm not sure how accurate this information is. I had stuff like even a duckbill platypus is pretty poisonous, or the Komodo dragon. So I'm not sure the jellyfish is like the most dangerous when it comes to poison, venom, all that. I want to throw it there. Put in comments below if this fact is not quite accurate, but something that I thought was kind of interesting. When you think of like a poisonous snake, that makes sense. When you think of like a jellyfish, like oh. you think of annoying sting or whatever, but it's on this article, so it is what it is. It's an interesting myth. Walt Disney first drew Mickey Mouse. And reality is he was drawn by the company's chief animator, Herb Urix. So I think you can like Google this and find more about the story, but I know everyone thinks of Disney and Mickey Mouse. I'm not sure. I'd be kind of interested. Is it like documentaries or anything like that about like early Disney? Because Walt Disney, you always think of him, the statue with him and Mickey in Disneyland or Disney World, and I'm not sure if like this guy or whatever you want. I'm probably butchering that name, but like if he really got screwed out or stuff like that, because if it's actually his creation, and then like maybe it's a collaboration. It'd be kind of interesting to hear more about the story, but it's not wasn't first drawn by Walt Disney. But I think like I've seen videos and stuff like that, like Walt actually drawing him and stuff like that too. So it'd be interesting to learn more about this. Next myth: using an alarm clock is the best way to wake up. And the truth is, waking up suddenly is bad for you. And this is like, if that's even true, that's not reality. Like, I work like a 9 to 5 job, basically, and when I wake up, I have to rely on my alarm clock for most of the time. Sometimes I can wake up a little bit naturally, but sometimes it's going to fall back to sleep. Um, it just depends because I have my dogs too, as well, so sometimes they can kind of wake me up a little bit. But I can't imagine like being functional like especially with like job and start times and stuff like that, how you cannot function and be dependable to your job if you can't wake up suddenly with an alarm clock and all that. So I think everyone does this, or at least a good amount of people do that, especially like, oh, I need to wake up so I catch my flight, or I have this meeting, or work or stuff like that. So I'm not sure how bad this is for you waking up suddenly. Like alarm clocks has been around for a long time and all that. So I don't know, but then you see these alarm clocks that have like nature, like they progressively make more sound, like soft music, and maybe like increase the lights in your room. Because I think there's like specialty alarm clocks or alarm devices that help ease in the wake up. But I cannot imagine like I think a majority of people have to wake up suddenly with alarm clocks. Like I just don't know how bad it is in terms of if it's really bad for you. Myth: alcohol beverages make you warm. In fact, alcohol dilates your superficial blood vessels, making you feel warmer. I guess that makes sense. I know like alcohol is like a depressant, and I'm not sure like with different types, like beer or wine versus like spirits and all that, if it's much difference. But it makes me think of like those cartoons or movies where they have like the winter or like in a snow area, and you have like the rescue Saint Bernard dog that has like the barrel brandy on his neck and wears that. And, like I think they see them in like Bugs Bunny cartoons and stuff like that. So I think maybe that's where this myth came from. Is you think of that big Saint Bernard dog with like the barrel brandy around his neck and all that. But yeah, just don't rely on alcohol to keep you warm. Just rely on you deal with the hardships of life. I know I do. Okay, this one I thought was very interesting. So the myth is that Vincent van Gogh, the artist, cut off his own ear, but the reality is he only cut off the tip of his earlobe. I can't even think of the painting. This little sketch work, kind of like artwork, makes reference to it, but like you see the bandage on the ear. I think maybe that was maybe a little bit exaggerated or something when he did that self portrait and all that. But it seemed like he only cut off part of his ear. Yeah, which I don't know the whole story about it. Maybe it was an accident. And there was like jokes. I think there was a Family Guy like joke cutaway that he cut off his ear because he loved this his wife or something like that, or girlfriend or something like that. And the joke like, "Oh, you wanted kids? I should have got you this," and stuff like that. So one of those myths that I guess everyone talks about, or a good amount of people talk about, but the truth is he didn't lose his own ear. Uh, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting fact to have in its article. And next myth is Napoleon was very short. In reality, he was around 1.7 meters tall, which I believe is average height at the time. I think that's still short by today's standards. And I think the story behind that, people could probably explain it better, but I think people are like saying he was so short to kind of like, because he was a powerful figure and emperor, and people like kind of like use it kind of slander him, or a smear campaign or whatever you want to call it. and but I guess it really stuck. Funny. One of the places I learned this was Teen Titans Go made an episode that referenced this. But yeah, he wasn't actually short for the time, and just kind of crazy when you think about like how rumors and stuff like that get spread. Because back then there wasn't like the social medias and internet all that. But I wonder how Napoleon would deal with that today. Like people are still calling him short, and he like trying to show pictures, but then like so many people would have said it and accepted it as fact already on Twitter or Facebook, and you can't like disprove it. And then when he tries to, like, oh, that's just deep fake or Photoshop or whatever. So not sure what the kind of rumors like it's how different it is to disprove them. Especially a lot of people take it as fact, even though there's no truth to it. Next myth: we only use 10% of our brains. And the fact is, most of the brain's cortex works at full capacity even when we're asleep. To me, this always didn't make sense. I know there was like some movies. I think you may hear like sometimes like, oh, you only use 7%. Because what's that movie Lucy, where she has like the pill? She gets like blue pill or something like that, and she uses her brain, or she gets red pill. I forget the difference, but it doesn't make sense that the brain's such a big important organ that you only use so little of it. And maybe a lot of it's just like automated use, like, but it seems like even with like memories and stuff like that too. Um, I feel like we use a good amount of brains, even though like I think some of it is like autopilot mode, like our brain telling our organs do this, or like, hey, lungs breathe, hey, heartbeat, stuff like that. So I'm not sure where this fact came from, but apparently it's not true. Myth: burns heal better if you apply oil to them. And the fact is, you should always apply something cold to the burn. Oil makes a film on the skin that keeps the heat inside. I'm trying to think where I heard this, if it was like a cartoon or TV show, like putting butter on it, and butter can have a lot of oil to it too. And that they's like, oh, don't. It just seems like you're like cooking yourself or something like that. I always hear like cold water, like just running in cold water. I think it's the best. I'm not sure if like ice packs, but just don't put oil on it is the main takeaway. I wonder how many people got in trouble like doing this and like getting themselves even more hurt or something like that. But don't put oil, don't put butter or whatever on the burn. I believe just cold water is really good, but it's something cold. And for this next myth, chloroform immediately knocks out people for several hours. And the truth is, it takes up to 5 minutes for someone to feel the chemical's effect, which then lasts for a short while. So I think you see this like in TV shows or cartoons or whatever, where they have like a rag with a chloroform and like knock someone out and they kind of drag them away and stuff like that. But I guess it doesn't work that way. Like I think it's just like really slow acting anesthesia or something like that. I'm not quite sure effects, but like using like to knock someone out. I'm trying to think what movie like had that. Like, oh, does it smell like chloroform to you? And like, yeah, just kidding. Like, but if you actually smell chloroform, you won't be like knocked out instantly or whatever. So very interesting to know. Like, I don't want to like put information out there, like what you should use to knock someone out, but apparently chloroform it doesn't work that way. Like it's just one of those things. I think just like in movies or TV shows that play it up. But yeah. The next myth is that brain cells stop growing when you reach adulthood, and the fact is, neurons flourish and change throughout your entire life. So that's good to know. I think I'm not sure if I just heard this in school or if I just seemed like it's like perpetuated around and around. But like if something happened, like I guess neurons can like repair or it says flourish. I'm not sure how um, what that means exactly. It'd be kind of interesting to know more about it because you feel like if you're like you live like majority of your life in adulthood, assuming that means like over 18. So it's good to know like, hey, brain cells don't do like quit. Yep, we're done. You're adult. So good thing. No, I think it'd be interesting to know more information about it though. Myth: trees produce most of the oxygen on Earth, but the fact is, oceans produce 50 to 70% of the oxygen on Earth. And this one makes sense when you really think about it, because then a lot of people think of like, oh, the environment, all that, and trees are really good too. Like trees produce oxygen and all that. But it also makes sense because oceans have water and H2O, so I'm not sure if it's the effect of like maybe evaporation. Maybe that's part of it too, like evaporation, and then also like I'm not sure if like tides going in and out like waves does anything to oxygenate whatever. Just because it says oceans more than just like water overall, like lakes and rivers and stuff like that. Maybe they do, but That's just kind of interesting. It kind of makes sense, but I think both are really important. Like, keep both clean, keep both flourishing. Not to get like on a soapbox about the environment, all that. But I thought that was kind of interesting when you think about oxygen. You usually think about trees, but I guess the oceans are also very important when it comes to that. Myth: dogs only see in black and white. And the truth is, dogs see other colors as well, but not as much as humans do. I wonder just how this really came across, like when they were doing research on dogs back in the day, like when like, oh, the eyes are different, so they must see black and white. Because I think old cartoons like Rugrats had like point of views from Spike and had like in black and white as well. And I think that makes sense. I feel like dogs have more better eyesight than we think they do. Like I feel like my dogs like recognize stuff. Now I can really say, oh, they recognize color without doing like much scientific research and all that. But it's like the one thing that gets perpetuated, and I think it's like an old wives' tale, and then it just becomes fact. But it's not true that they actually see some color. Myth: it's easier to catch cold when it's actually cold outside. And in fact, colds are caused by viruses, not by temperature. This one makes sense to me as well, but I always hear that. I'm not sure if it's just because of winter people, when they are cold, maybe their immune system gets a little bit more compromised or overload or stuff like that. So I think technically you can get sick a little bit more easier. Like I think flu season, it's always been like in winter. But when you think about it, it's like actual viruses, and so it's not like bacteria. I don't know too much about it, but like uh, it's not like cold or hot. It's still a virus because I remember this was kind of annoying to hear back when the pandemic and COVID was really big. Like I always hear like just living in Arizona as well, be like, oh, I can't wait for the summer because then it will kill the virus or kill the COVID and stuff like that. And that's not how it works and stuff like that. Not that I can really bump in and say that, but that was like said so much here during especially 2020, like the first year of it. People were like, oh, when it's summertime, it's gonna be better and stuff like that. I'm not sure if people thought that. Of course, people probably thought that a lot. Like even like in Florida, because like spring break was really bad and all that. So people were like, oh, since it's hot outside, we don't have to worry about COVID, and that wasn't really the case. Not to tread back to those dark years from long ago, but it made me. I thought it was an interesting fact to include in this video. Next myth is the Great Wall of China is visible from space. And the fact is, no man-made object can be seen from space. I think there's very few like instances, like we can probably see like land masses and stuff like that, like continents from space, but you can't really see like um, big structures or man-made structures or anything. Maybe not even the pyramids. I'm not sure. This article mentioned the Great Wall of China because I know that that's said as a rumor so many times, like the old wives' tale, like oh, you can see the Great Wall of China from space, but you can't. And I think since it says no man-made objects, that includes the pyramids. But I don't know, it just feels like exaggerated, especially like space is so high up. Like, can't imagine being able to see something from that far away. But a common one I heard before, but it's a myth. And this last one, this is one I think a lot of people know, but I'm not sure. Do people even know this fact? Because I feel like this is one of those things that were like talked about in like I don't know if kids these days really care who Albert Einstein is, but the myth is that Einstein was a bad student who failed at math. And the fact is that he did fine in math, but failed English, botany, and zoology. I'm not sure what that, if those were like he took that in grade or middle or high school, or if that was in college. Um, but people like say the story was with Albert Einstein is that he was so smart that I got bored with math and he didn't do his homework or schoolwork. And I think that was like saying, oh, if you're bad at math, that doesn't mean you're always going to be bad because this genius Albert Einstein was. So I think it's like one of those like old wives' tales that like kind of helped motivate kids. They're like, hey, you're not an idiot, like just because you failed math. But I don't know. I guess he did fail some subjects, so it's not like he's straight A valedictorian students. But I thought this was a good way to end this video and all that. So thanks so much for watching. Comment below what do you think about these facts and the other ones, that old wives' tale or old myths that are actually like, no, that's not true, but this is the truth of it. But something a little bit different to throw back on the channel. Let me know if I should do this more often, because sometimes I'll see a listicle that like that may be interesting to kind of make some reaction kind of content, even though this is kind of cheaply made with my laptop webcam and all that. But and the best way to support me, like, comment, subscribe, check out YouTube, Twitter, Twitch are the three main ones. But that will do it for today. So y'all take care and have a good rest of your day. Bye.